The time we're taking this interview, your boys, and I have to refer to them as your boys, are probably running gassers, probably going through workouts, and Jimmy's not there. Have you even given it a thought at this day that you should be over there, how weird this all feels?
No, not really, Roy, because of all the crucial decisions that I've made in my life, there's always been a little bit of a second thought on most of them, because some of them were very big. Obviously, it was a big decision when I left the Cowboys, but this is one decision that I've never looked back on. I'm really happy with the position that I'm in right now, and life goes on, and so they have to go and do their thing, and I'm going to do my thing.
All right, let's now move to the events of March 20th, 1994. Okay, we're at a place called Pleasure Island, which is kind of dubiously named. You guys are having some drinks, you and I guess Wanstadt, Bob Ackles, and all of your friends. Some former coaches, Norb Turner is there, some current people associated with the Cowboys. And it's late, you guys are having a good time. And you're telling some Jerry stories, pretty obvious. And there walks Jerry, the owner of the team. He wants to join the party. Why didn't you let him join the party?
There were some people at the table that Jerry had fired that did not respond to his toast, and Jerry was offended by that.
Basically, Monday night, we were having a great time, very social event. I proposed a toast to about a group of 5 or 6 people, 5 of which had Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl rings, to kind of toast job well done. That was about it. And for my own reason, I just wasn't satisfied with the toast and decided to toast someplace else.
Well, I know exactly why they didn't respond. They were fired. And so it's hard for them to toast to Super Bowl champions and Super Bowl rings that they weren't allowed to receive. And so I know why they didn't respond. But I did. I toasted. And I really didn't, and I don't think that anybody at that table...
Response, a sincere toast?
I don't think anybody at the table really thought much about it, to tell you the truth. But that was about 10 o'clock, and from my understanding, about 6 hours later of partying is when all the statements were made, and so then that's when I knew that it was inevitable that we were going to make a part.
Around 2 o'clock in the morning you're talking about, he went out to the Grand Hyatt Cypress in Orlando, Jerry Jones did, and said to the reporters, y'all might miss something real big here, a real big story if you leave this bar. I should have fired this guy and got him up out of his bed and fire his butt right now, because I had Barry Switzer in the line waiting for him. And as a matter of fact, any one of 500 coaches could have taken us to the Super Bowl. When you heard those statements, what did you think?
Well, at first I was mad, and then I was hurt. I felt like that I really contributed a lot to the Dallas Cowboys. I gave a lot of my life, 5 years, to the Dallas Cowboys. And to be clumped in with 500 people that could have done it, I was offended and I was hurt. And again, that's when I knew that I was going to be leaving the Dallas Cowboys and moving to South Florida.
With Jerry as an owner, you were quoted saying right after that, winning a 3rd Super Bowl wouldn't mean that much.
Well, I knew that we had the best team in football, and I knew that we could accomplish that. And I don't mean to make light of winning Super Bowls, because it really doesn't come that easy. I think a lot of people there in Dallas that hasn't been in football for about 30 or 40 years, they feel like that it's easy. They may find out it's not quite that easy.
Refute this statement. Jimmy won. Jimmy helped lead that team to those 2 Super Bowls. It was his championship team. He put it together. But without Jerry, he doesn't do it. He doesn't pull it off. Jerry was almost as instrumental in winning that championship as Jimmy was.
I think that you know the answer to that statement when you ask it. I don't know that we can speculate as far as who contributed more. I don't really care. Only thing is, I know, what I was able to do. I know my contribution, and I feel very good about my contribution.
Okay, let me follow up with that. Did you at any point ever, try to be candid on this, resent the fact that people, maybe Jerry Jones, maybe someone else, took more credit than they deserved?
I think, Roy, anybody that knows me, you know this, that I am very straightforward. I am very honest to the to the extent that sometimes it gets me in trouble because I say exactly how I feel. I say what I believe. And sometimes it irritates me when people are not truly honest. And so that answers that question.
Let me go this way. Critic says, Jimmy Johnson was an employee. No matter how he wanted to look at it, he was an employee. The boss is always right. That's American business, Jimmy. I mean, you had the reins, you had the capacity to run that football team, but what the boss says goes, period.
Fine. And what the boss says goes. And I went along with that for 5 years, and as an employee, I have the option to work or not work.
But you had a contract. You had a 10-year contract, right? You committed 10-year contract. Jimmy Johnson gave his word, I'll be here 10 years.
No. When we talked about contract, Jerry said, how long do you want the contract for? I said, I could care less. Security's never really been a big concern of mine. 5 years, whatever. He said, 5 years, 10 years? I said, I don't care. He said, let's make it for 10 years. I said, that's fine, I don't care. And I told him, I said, hey, you know, as long as we're working together, as long as we're happy, you know, we'll go ahead and do the thing. We don't even have to have a contract. But if it ever comes to the point that we're not happy working with one another, we can always part. And that's exactly what I did. As an employee, I had the option to stay there and work, or as an employee, I had the option to leave.
But as an employee, critic says, Jimmy should have kept his mouth shut during the Super Bowl. You don't even allude to the fact there were other intriguing opportunities out there. Your job is to stay focused for the Super Bowl. It's all a giant distraction. What business did Jimmy Johnson have starting to talk about other jobs?
Well, I think people can evaluate, and people can second guess and have hindsight if we fall short. But we did win 2 Super Bowls. So evidently what we did was pretty good.
You weren't a distraction. You don't think what you said was a distraction of the football team that week?
Did we win?
I guess so.
So evidently it wasn't too big a distraction.
We'll come back with more Jimmy Johnson from Miami after this. Jimmy started with immediate controversy. While Jimmy packed his bags, another Arkansas alum was taking over. 56-year-old Barry Switzer, who was an assistant coach of the 1964 national champs, a team that featured Jerry Jones on the offensive line and Jimmy Johnson on the defensive line. Switzer and Johnson would meet often as head coaches in the college ranks. Their biggest battles occurred in the mid-'80s when Johnson's Miami Hurricanes were the only team to beat Switzer's Oklahoma Sooners in 3 straight seasons. The two seemed to have a friendly relationship when Switzer visited the Cowboys training camp in 1989.
My roommate in college didn't have enough money to buy me a team. I told him that, and he says, you know, what makes you think that I would have considered you anyway?
Hey, Jimmy, you think this got to be a pro coach?
You like it, Jimmy? Should I?
He's been a pro coach for a long time. When was he ever an amateur coach?
You're terrible.
Who's the better coach here?
The one with the better players. Hey, when he was Oklahoma State, I was the better coach.
When I went to Miami, I was the better.
This mutual admiration ended when Barry Switzer was named Cowboys head coach. Switzer hasn't coached in 5 years. He's never coached a pro team. Many people found Jones's choice for head coach puzzling.
I was surprised that he hired Barry Switzer.
You were?
Yeah, I was shocked. But then again, evidently he knew what he wanted to do, and you know, Barry and Jerry both have similar lifestyles, and I think that had a part to do with it.
In what way, similar lifestyle?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that Jerry was disappointed in is that, you know, when we first went to the Dallas Cowboys, you know, I really didn't participate in a lot of the social activities. I pretty well stuck to football. And I think he probably felt like that we lost some communication by not being together a lot socially. And so I think maybe with Barry, they will be able to go out together, be able to communicate together, and maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that we have.
Jimmy supposedly doesn't like me, and I don't understand why. Hell, he kept me from winning 3 more national championships. You know, I was 33-0 against everyone else and 0-3 against him. But I whipped him at Oklahoma State. You know, he wasn't brilliant then. If he was, why in the hell he didn't kick me?
Well, I don't know that it gets into a like or a dislike. You know, Barry made the statement that he hired me and I worked for him at Oklahoma. You know, I think
Not true?
Well, Barry's got selective amnesia, I think, because we were both assistant coaches under Chuck Fairbanks. We worked for Chuck Fairbanks for a few years at Oklahoma. I left Oklahoma before he ever became head coach.
What should Barry Switzer know about being coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, I don't know. He's going to find out here in the next year or two.
You want to give any advice, Jimmy?
No, I'm sure he wouldn't really take my advice, and he probably has the answers.
So you're doing the football deal for Fox this fall, and things are going pretty well, but yeah, you're starting to get a little bit of a feeling in your soul. It's mid-November. Cowboys may be 7-4, and there's rumblings. They're not happy with Barry. Bring in Jimmy. Have the cavalry rescue us. Question: could there ever be a scenario where you'd go back? Where you'd go back with Jerry and say, we're going to try this again? It's happened before.
Well, it won't happen this time. First of all, I think that they'll do well. And because of the feeling for Troy Aikman's and Michael Irvin's and Emmett Smith's and coaching staff, I want them to do well. But that's one thing I don't do, is I don't go back in history. I go on about my life in a different direction.
But you always wanted this job. This was the job. What could be a better job than being the coach of the team you always wanted to coach?
Well, I always wanted it, but when you always want a Corvette and you get a Corvette, well, it's not that special to get the second or third Corvette. I always wanted to be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and I got 2 Super Bowl rings. Now we go on to another challenge.
Is it possible it ain't going to be any better somewhere else? It could be worse somewhere else?
There's always a bigger challenge. There's always new mountains to climb. There's always different places to go and different people to see.
We'll come back to our conversation with Jimmy Johnson from Monty Trainers in Miami. More after this. Miami's Monty Trainers restaurant. 3 consecutive Super Bowls. No one's ever done it before. They're talking about you as Lombardi. You can't tell me that in the back of your mind to walk away from 3 consecutive Super Bowls as a possibility isn't something that you're going to think about for the rest of your life.
No, I'm not going to think about it, because I ask you this, Roy. How many coaches have won Super Bowls with different football teams? How many coaches have won 2 Super Bowls with one team and maybe 1 or 2 with another team?
Any ideas?
I think it can be done.
We're here in South Florida. I'm going to raise it, and you do whatever you want with this. Everyone talks about Miami. You've talked openly about Miami. You'd love to come back here. You'd love to come back to the Dolphins. Apparently, Shula's not thrilled with that.
It was only natural that I moved back to South Florida. I moved to South Florida to live here, not to come back here and coach the Dolphins. As far as, my feelings with another team and another coach, such as Don, I don't want to be disruptive. I don't want to be a distraction. I want to allow them to go out and do the best that they can do. I would want the same thing if I was in their shoes. And the other thing is, I have tremendous respect for Don Shula. He's done a fantastic job, with the Dolphins, and everybody's very proud of what he's accomplished here. I don't think it's any secret that if I had the right situation, if everything was, quote, right for me to go into a team and have an opportunity to win another Super Bowl, I'd like to be in South Florida.
I want to ask you something that happened in Miami that it's been very painful in recent weeks, and it has to do with the pay-for-play controversy. Were you aware at any time as a football coach of players being paid for touchdowns, fumble recoveries, interceptions, what?
I really think that thing's completely blown out of proportion, and I know that that's kind of the standard phrase to use when something like this happens. First of all, they talked about this Luther Campbell. That all happened afterwards. I never even knew who Luther Campbell was. I'd heard my last year of a group called Two Live Crew.
Right.
So a lot of that took place at a later stage. But this is not a booster of University of Miami, and I don't know that he's someone promoting the program. He was a friend of certain players on the team. But as far as money for touchdowns, etc., I think if you really got down to the basics of if this actually happened and how many times it happened, I think you'd be surprised to find out it didn't really happen.
We'll come back with more Jimmy Johnson from Miami after this.
Are you part of this, bro? Asthma, my get over there on that other field and have some asthma. You're on the wrong field to have asthma. All right, Mike. Get out of here. Come on, man. Break a tackle, Julio. Break a tackle.
People portray you as so Machiavellian, so obsessed with winning in football, that you had no time for your kids, that this was the phrase they used, you waved your first wife like a football cut. Have you at least, if that was ever even close to truth, readjusted your life to change it somewhat, to take stock of yourself a little bit more and to lighten up?
Yeah, I guess everybody's personality is a little different. In order for me to be truly successful at what I want to be successful in, I sometimes have to block out other things. That doesn't take away the way I feel about people. I doubt very seriously if there's any more love with a father and his sons than what I have with Brent and Chad.
Mm-hmm.
But they understand that I'm going to be spending 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to win football games at certain times of the year and certain years. They understand that. I understand for Brent to be the best attorney that he's going to be, or Chad to be the best investment broker that he's going to be. He's going to spend time doing that, and he's not going to have time for me a lot of times. And so when we get together, we enjoy that. We all go to Las Vegas together. We all go to the Bahamas together. We all spend time together.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, there are certain times in our lives that we're not going to be able to call each other every day.
But Jimmy, once upon a time you used to tell your kids at Miami, University of Miami football players, I want you to think about what you're going to do 10 years down the road, and I want you to think about football now. What are you going to do with your life away from football?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever asked yourself the same question?
Yeah, I've asked myself that, and I'm doing it right now.
For a year?
For a year.
That's all the room you want.
And you never can tell. You know, everybody has all kind of, guesses of where I'll be next year. I might be doing the exact same thing next year that I'm doing right now, because I'm not in a position to where I have to coach football.
No.
But I'm going to do this. I'm going to see how well I enjoy it. If I decide to get back coaching football, it'll be in the right situation where I'll be truly happy with what I've got.
But you got to coach, right? Eventually. That's what you are. That's what you do.
Roy,
You're
I
a
don't
football.
have to do
But you're
anything.
a football coach, essentially, right? Isn't that, you're born to be a coach, yes?
No.
No?
I don't know that I was born to be a coach. That's kind of a comical phrase, born to do something.
Let me put it to you this
I don't know that I
way.
was born to be a
A
coach.
long time ago, you said, if I wasn't a football coach, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be weighing about 300 pounds, sitting in front of a TV set, eating those Doritos, watching football morning, noon, and night. That's true.
And if I don't watch myself, I'm liable to get to 300 pounds right there this year.
You're a protective guy. You're very aware of how the media works and it manipulates you or tries to get something juicy. But if in your heart of hearts you could tell me something that people really don't know about you, if you could reveal something that people would be surprised to hear, maybe Rhonda would be a better person to ask, but what do you think it might be? What territory are we talking about?
Well, I think sometimes, people look at me as being hard and cold and very manipulative. Somewhat of a person that doesn't have emotions. I think if they really knew me, they would understand how emotional I am, how much feeling I have for people. I think that's the greatest thing in my life is the association I've had with people, assistant coaches, friends, my girlfriend, even my ex-wife, my sons, my mother and daddy. I have great feeling for people, and I love to study people, and I love to really have some give and take with people as far as our emotions.
I asked this once of Wilt, and I got a very interesting answer. And I don't mean to do this into a Barbara Walters moment here, but
Right.
When was the last time you cried, Jimmy? Last time you cried?
I cried when I left the Cowboys because it was a very emotional time for me. And in fact, I cried as hard there as I think I've ever cried in my life. When it hit me that I was leaving the Dallas Cowboys, I walked into the house, and my daddy answered the door. He was there with my mother because they knew some things were coming up, and it was going to be a very trying time. And when I saw him, I just broke down and started crying because I had worked so very hard for so many years to get to where I was, and to be walking away from that was a very emotional time for me.
What do you say?
Daddy hugged me. He said, it's going to be all right, son. And it was all right, and it is all right.
How long did it take for you to realize it would be all right?
Oh, when it actually happened, because you know me, once it happens, I don't look back.
Coming up, more with Jimmy Johnson. Currently, the right situation for Jimmy is with his girlfriend, Rhonda, in South Florida. Here's where Jimmy will enjoy his first season out of coaching in 26 years. For the time being, he's steering his career course in the direction of football analyst. But for a man who has based his existence on winning for so many years, how will Jimmy Johnson adapt to life off the playing field?
For some people, it's never right. Anything that they do, any place that they are, they're never right. And then for some people, it's always right.
It's always right for you?
Yeah, it's always right because that's what I control my mind to do. You know, I make sure that I program myself to make sure it's always right.
That's great. It's a great philosophy. Johnny Paycheck's line, take this job and shove it. Did you do that? You said take this job and shove it?
No, I just said, I'm going to South Florida, I'm going fishing.
South Florida's Hurricane Jimmy is calm now. He's got a beer in his hand. His hair flows freely. Today, his biggest worries come underwater. And on a recent scuba diving trip, he ran out of air.
My partner grabbed my respirator and pulled it out of my mouth and put in his octopus, which is his spare breathing apparatus. And we made it to the top. But that was a scary feeling.
Yes. Hey, would you ever go diving with Jerry Jones?
I might not get his octopus.
Jimmy Johnson moves forward. The title of Dallas Cowboys head coach is now just another entry on football's most impressive resume. His Super Bowl and NCAA championship rings are locked away in a safe deposit box, showing his total disregard for past accomplishments. Jimmy Johnson lives his life like he coaches his teams, focusing only on the next challenge, wherever it is, whenever it may be, doing whatever it takes to be a winner.
Winning in our society is what brings credibility to every individual.
Mm-hmm. Win and you can tell the world to go to hell, basically.
That's what I've done.
We'd like to thank our guest, the Fox analyst and HBO analyst and sometimes football coach, Jimmy Johnson, for joining us from Miami. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.